Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism. Let's take on another one of these Am I the Assholes to see the degree to which they teach us not only about narcissism or related personalities, but what it does to other people. This one is fascinating. I hope you like it. It took me a minute with this one. Am I the asshole for ruining my brother's marriage because his life left me at the pool? Okay, so that already. The person says, I'm a 19-year-old female. I had surgery a couple of days ago to get all 4 of my wisdom teeth out. And because I have a really bad fear of dentists, they had to drug me pretty hard to do the removal. Not like laughing gas that wears off, but actual IV medication, so I was unconscious during the whole procedure. They told me to have a responsible adult drive me to the appointment and back because the meds they gave me would make it dangerous to drive. That's standard. My mother was on a work trip and couldn't take me, so I asked my sister-in-law, who's 24 years old, if she could do it, as the whole thing would only take an hour or 2. I even offered gas money because the dental office is about 45 minutes away. I would have asked my brother, but he works during the day while the sister-in-law is a stay-at-home mother to their 2-year-old daughter, and the 2-year-old daughter was at a grandmother's house that day. The sister-in-law, who's called Bree, agreed to take me to the appointment, and the surgery went fine. Bree waited in the lobby for me to be done. When I came out of anesthesia, I was very disoriented and nauseous, which I guess is normal. I had gauze shoved in my mouth to stop any bleeding, and Bree took me to her car after I was let go. I don't really remember much of the drive, but it felt like not enough time passed before Bree got out of the car and told me to come with her. I was really out of it and just followed her, because the alternative was staying in the hot car. Long story short, we were at a pool. I was really confused, but once we were through the gate, Bree basically parked me at one of those little table benches and said she'd be back in a while. I was still trying not to throw up and was really dizzy from the heat. It was over 90 degrees and the drugs, so I asked her to take me home, but she wouldn't. I guess since it was her day off and she didn't have my niece, she was meeting friends at the pool. I was really starting to feel sick and on the verge of passing out or having a panic attack, so I called my brother. I don't think he could understand me between the effect of the medications and the stuff in my mouth, because he hung up, and I guess he called Bree because she came stomping back over, cussing and yelling at me, and took me back to the car. I passed out on the drive home, but when we arrived, my brother had left work and met us in the driveway. He was screaming at Bree and she was crying. I was still pretty disoriented, but my brother took me back home and stayed with me until the meds wore off. That's when he told me he's divorcing Bree because of what she did, plus some other things he didn't go into detail about. It's been a few days since then, and Bree has been blowing up my phone, telling me what a bitch I am and how me tattling destroyed her family. Part of me feels bad because of my niece, and I wonder if I should have just dealt with it and waited for her to be done at the pool instead of calling my brother and causing problems. Am I the asshole? No, not the asshole, but damn. I had to read this one twice and even run it by my own team. Like, what did I just read, basically? So it's such an interesting example to me, this one, of how a narcissistic relationship or a high conflict or toxic, call it what you, I don't know if Bree's narcissistic. She certainly seems very self-serving and unempathic. So I think we could probably say possibly, that when you have this kind of a high conflict relationship within a family structure, the blast zone around that, right? This person's 19, right? They had no choice. They turned to where they could to get a drive. This person agreed to it. It was never, I don't know why the hell Bree didn't just take this woman home, drop her off, and then go back to the pool. At least that would have been a better setup, and even not so, right? 19, still an adolescent, coming out of anesthesia, not so sure you'd want to leave somebody in that kind of a situation. You really want to make sure that the person safely came out of the medications. That's what Bree was being asked to do. Clearly her husband is supporting her financially, so she could roll up one day and actually do something and help this, and help her, I guess it's her sister-in-law. And so the Bree of it all was very interesting, because this is what you see with high conflict people, okay? I think this is the big takeaway from this one, that the sister-in-law, this woman Bree, She wanted to do what she wanted to. She didn't ask. She didn't say, hey, would you mind going to the pool? I'd love to see my friends. She just did it. The person, the 19-year-old person who had the dental stuff done, did not feel well. Can you imagine? You've had this procedure, your mouth is full of blood, you've been under the effect, you've been under an IV anesthesia, you're going to feel sick coming out of that. To be sitting at a bench in 90 degrees, she should have been home lying down and taking medication for the pain. That person then goes and calls her brother and saying, yo, I don't know what to do. She had nowhere else to turn. Her own mother was out of town on a business trip, right? So she calls the brother. The brother then says to Bree, get her the hell out of there. And then it blows up. What is Bree mad about? She's mad that the person who wrote this tattled on her. First of all, you're in your 20s. Nobody's tattling on anyone. It's like what an 8-year-old does. What the 19-year-old did was simply try to get help in a situation where she needed it. But the way the Brees of the world run their game is they do lots of bad stuff. And obviously enough of her life, she's gotten away with doing bad things that she never got called out. Now, I think where the brother kind of misplayed his hand, and maybe he was so enraged, but he misplayed it by saying, this is it, now I'm going to get a divorce, leaving the 19-year-old feeling responsible as though this was the straw that broke the camel's back. My guess is that Bree conducts herself badly. They have a kid together. Who knows? Maybe Bree is even is being lazy and sloppy there. But my sense is Bree is an egocentric, lazy, sloppy, irresponsible, unempathic, and entitled person, and that's getting on the brother's nerves. You know, I mean, I have to wonder if brother knew that Bree was this irresponsible. He actually also did something a little enably by letting Bree be the one to be responsible for his sister on such a significant doctor's appointment when he knew it was very likely that Bree would do something irresponsible. This is how family systems let this stuff keep festering and festering until it hits a tipping point. I hope that the brother and this Bree character don't stay together because, quite frankly, I think that Bree will make the 19-year-old's life miserable always, which is not a very nice way to live. And we know damn well the Brees of the world never really improve. She's certainly young, but not that young. I mean, not so young that you would take somebody who needs to be in bed and being monitored and put them in the sun while you go to the pool with your friends. So definitely not only not the asshole, but again, an illustration of what happens when people kind of think like, well, maybe the toxic person's going to do the right thing this time. The toxic person never does the right thing. And so you never, ever, ever want to put a high-stakes responsibility in their hands. Ultimately, Bree is responsible for Bree's bad behavior, not the brother. The brother should have known better and should not have made that comment, well, this is the last straw, now I'm going to divorce her, because that gave an unfair responsibility to the 19-year-old. And that, you know, Bree is going to just continue going through the world and doing this to people, always doing bad things. And then instead of taking responsibility for them, which Bree never took responsibility for taking someone and leaving them in the heat when they should have been recovering, she instead blame shifted, as they do, blame shifted onto the 19-year-old and said, everything's your fault because you tattled on me. Again, that not taking responsibility is core to the toxic personality. So there really does need to be a service. And I'm telling you now, this particular Am I the Asshole brings it into stark relief. I'm hearing it more and more that there almost needs to be a service where people who have, that there's a safe transport to and from hospitals. I think that what is so cruel is this idea that healthcare services, clinics, everything, assume that everybody out there has somebody to take them to and from a doctor's appointment. That setup actually leaves a lot of folks who are in toxic families, toxic relationships, feeling not only shame, but a sense of helplessness. Because sometimes you can't find that friend or something. And so that was quite striking to me, is that's something, that's actually a hole in our healthcare system, that assumption that everybody comes from a happy family and has lots of support. It's actually a crock. A lot of people don't, and it can really put people in some risky circumstances. Had this gal had a strong reaction to the to the anesthesia. This could actually have been more of a medical emergency. Them's my thoughts. Would love to hear yours. Thanks again.